now more than ever, as a sales individual, you can become a marketing juggernaut because social media is free. All you got to do is flip your damn camera on and start talking into it.
Yeah, I feel like we need to reverse the roles. I think people should learn about you, your upbringing, your professional career, and what you've been up to lately.
When the doors close, it's likely I'm recording or I'm crying. I'm going to look right in the camera right now and just tell you that alcohol and depression do not mix.
The fact that you could just go in, log in an account, and just build your own brand from scratch is easy.
And I was a director of sales that wanted to do a podcast to get the phones to get going and to tell the story of our brand because I thought it would generate more sales. Instead of selling one customer at a time, I was trying to sell the world to pay attention to it. There's one thing that all champions have in common. They get shit done. So welcome to the Get Shit Done experience.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. We are here at the GSDX podcast. This is the Get Shit Done experience, and I look a little bit different. This isn't John Morris. This is Eric Wiechert. I'm the Director of Help Desk here at GSD Technologies. So we're doing a little bit of a role reversal here. So, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a little flippage here. We're flipping. We're flipping it.
It's a little flippage. I had this idea, and we talked about it way, maybe in like less than 10, 15 episodes, where I was like, you're doing such a great job hosting, and you end up peppering in a little bit of your experience and your personal life into episodes as best you can, and you do a great job of it. But I was like, I feel like we need to reverse the roles. I think people should learn about you, like your upbringing, your professional career, and what you've been up to lately.
I'm super nervous this episode's going to completely flop.
And
not because of your hosting skills,
no,
just because like people are like, oh, God,
so
really?
Boring.
Enough of this guy.
Such a snooze.
Enough of this guy.
No, honestly, I think
you like the guy because he brings other people on to talk. Well, you could still think that I'm bringing other people on to talk. He's just, he's hosting.
No, I'm hosting, but honestly, I wanted to learn more about you, John, because you have a lot of great insight into just the professional life of sales and brand marketing and being a brand. What's the proper term now? Brand champion.
I don't know if I've coined that phrase, but I sure as hell am trying, because I really do believe that sales and marketing, they've always worked together. But if you've been in sales or you've been in marketing for a long time, you know that there's always been a bit of a tension between the two. I came up in sales where, we had appointment setters. So that was considered marketing. We had marketing collateral. There was these DVD productions. We were like, man, we got DVDs, like infomercial DVDs, right? And they were pretty cool, but most of it was like drop-off marketing collateral. And really the marketing for us was a telemarketer, appointment setter would call out, introduce the service, ask for 10 minutes for an appointment, set the appointment.
Yeah.
Well, when you're asking for 10, 15 minutes of an appointment for somebody to come in person to meet with you, how serious are you really going to take that? So a lot of times, and they were setting appointments with business owners. So a lot of times the business owners would get called out, forget about it, say yes, but didn't really mean yes. So there was always this infighting and this tension between sales and marketing where, if sales wasn't performing, they were always blaming it on the leads, right? The leads sucked. The marketing department was giving us terrible leads. And then if the sales department sat with a client for an hour or a half hour or whatever and didn't convert the sale, then marketing was always like, well, the sales team, we're giving them amazing leads and they suck. So now more than ever, I really feel like sales and marketing are having to mold into one.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, if you're an effective sales professional, a lot of the marketing, traditional marketing, you could take care of on your own. Like I can become a personality.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that 25 years ago. Unless you had like a camera crew and you were getting booked for events and you were Zig Ziglar. Or,
wasn't my department. It's just one or the other.
Yeah. But, as just an individual sales rep representing a company, it was very difficult to kind of create your own persona, your own brand. You were out and you were selling. Now more than ever, as a sales individual, you can become a marketing juggernaut because social media is free.
Yeah.
All you got to do is flip your damn camera on and start talking into it.
Yeah, there is no, like season pass to buy into for LinkedIn. Sure, they've got the premium, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I have no clue, but the fact that you could just go in, log in an account, and just build your own brand from scratch is easy. Oh, well, not easy, but simple enough tool for you to start.
Eric, it actually is easy. Okay. It is easy because it's really just a matter of consistency. And I think a lot of people talk themselves out of it because they don't think it's easy. It really is easy. You're already doing things all day.
Yeah.
Why not just capture some of those moments of what you're doing?
Well, maybe what it is I might not think that, listen, when I'm doing IT shit all day and helping customers and going into meetings, out of meetings, to me, it's like, who's going to find that interesting? But
well, yeah, it's boring to you.
But to maybe your point is that just taking a second to record a video, minute and a half of things that I'm doing where I'm popping into the team and giving them some directives or this or that, that might be exciting for somebody or a whole group of people.
There's always savings, but it's about way more than savings alone. Total Technology Solutions Group redefines managed print services. Excellence is the minimum standard. TTSG is a true managed print service provider, deeply understanding your technology and business goals. Your business is unique. Our solutions are tailored to your current and future business goals. Our customer-first approach empowers and delights. TTSG can ensure your technology environment will scale as your business does. So as you navigate business and constant change, partner with TTSG for premium advisement and seamless implementation of your technology goals. We set the bar high. Your people deserve it. Peace of mind. Powerful innovation. TTSG.com. Yeah, probably initially when people approached a bunch of housewives out of whatever state they were doing it and said, we're going to do a show about, the 6 of you and what your life is like, they were probably initially like, well, who the hell's going to watch that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just but we all want to see a look into what someone else's life looks like. So, for you, the day-to-day grind, you become desensitized to it because you're doing it. I do as well. What I realized was, if you're an accountant, somebody who creates marketing for a living, it's probably pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you create marketing for a living, you probably wonder what the hell an accountant does all day.
Oh, yeah. I'll admit there was this show called The Pitch back on AMC. This was back, 2008 to 2011, where it was just like an hour-long documentary where like Pizza Hut or some of these big-name brands would come to 2 marketing companies and say, hey, we need a campaign. Here's the XYZ of the campaign. Go. You have 1 week to do it.
Oh, that's badass.
And it was cool to peel back the curtain and see like, okay, they go back. They sit in a room till 4 a.m. when they come up with the idea, like, the pizza giant's going to come get you if you don't eat pizza, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it just shows the documentary behind these 2 marketing companies coming up with the idea, the video, the print, the image, everything. Then they go showcase it to Pizza Hut, and then there was a winner. And I was glued to the TV. There was like 3 seasons of it. I'm like, they made it seem so easy. Like I could go, I'm like, man, maybe I could do that. But it was so cool to me that I wonder if anybody in marketing ever cared or watched that. They're probably like, oh my God, this is the worst part. Turn it off.
Yeah.
I'm just so curious.
I think it's brilliant. I think, if you look at like The Apprentice, that was a fascinating show because it was just business professionals and so on that were vying for this, this opportunity to work for, a larger organization and have a larger role within that. So they turned, the day-to-day grind of being a brand builder, a sales executive, a marketing guru, an advertiser, an operational expert, whatever it is. You kind of had to smash all that together. And they ran competitions on that. Yeah. And it was captivating television.
Yeah.
And I really think that if you look at a company that manufactures widgets, people come in, they put their time card in, they go in, they do their thing, they come in and out, and they're gone. And if you think about it in that term, then it's probably pretty boring. But the reality is, the machinery that is making those widgets is complex, right? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And the decision making of how much inventory they're going to purchase based on what the pipeline looks like and what the forecast looks like, and then how operations is communicating with sales, and how sales is communicating with operations, and operations communicating with production, and then like that whole kind of formula is actually pretty interesting if you can find a way to document it and tell it and put it out in a series. So people are like, okay, now I just learned that. I'd like to see the next phase.
Yes.
Then if you take the people that are operating within that and turn them into characters, like Eric, there's things now from working with you for 8 months now? 9 months?
Yeah.
Where I kind of know your personality, like how you operate, how you roll.
Yeah.
Whenever you are walking by, you're always going to be, hey, Mr. John, or Mr. Morris, what's going on? Which is obviously, you're not calling me Mr. Morris because of seniority or anything like that. It's just how you talk to me.
Yeah.
So, and you always have a bowl of candy.
Yes.
So there's things about you as a person that are characteristics that make TTSG and GSD who they are.
Yeah. The culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I think companies should capture.
Absolutely. And even just coming past here, like you always bring that positive vibe, energy. I don't think I've ever seen you in here like just pissed, like, oh my God.
Well, I close the door when I'm crying.
Okay, good. This is the closed cry door.
The door is, when the door is closed, it's likely I'm recording or I'm crying. So I'm not afraid to admit it.
If we're not
I'm
laughing,
a crier.
we're crying.
I'm a crier.
It's good to get it out. It's good to get it out. So Mr. John Morris, take me back. You're a father, you're a coworker, you're an avid golfer, a very good golfer.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about your upbringing. I know you've kind of peppered in some history and, kind of how you grew up and family, but, what was like 6-year-old John like? Did you go by Johnny? Did people JM, was it just John? And, talk to me a little bit about, just kind of growing up and where you grew up and kind of what made you enjoy the childhood that you had, or not.
Interesting. I didn't really I never was a Johnny.
No. Okay. Good.
There was athletics wise, every once in a while I got a Johnny, but my father and mother were devout Christians, right? So I was named after the Apostle John, says my father.
Yeah.
So I'll take it.
Yeah.
Apparently Jesus liked John pretty much. So
it's a solid name.
So we'll take that. What was my childhood like? Well, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, Irish Catholic. There's a 7-year gap between me and the next child. My parents wanted to have 10 kids. They had 3 miscarriages, still ended up with 6 kids. The oldest child is 18 years older than me, never lived in the same house as her. Hey, Katie, what's up?
Wow,
I love you. She's my angel on earth.
Oh.
So when I was born, it was in October, and she had left for school in August to go to University of Delaware and never came back. Met her husband there and so on. So we never lived in the same house. Well, I was born in New Jersey, and then my dad got promoted. My dad was an executive for Kraft Foods. He got 17 promotions in 35 years. So we got moved around a lot because every promotion with a corporate USA sales was a new region that he was going to take over or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I was born in New Jersey and lived there until I was 2.5. And then we moved to Arlington Heights, suburb of Chicago, and had just a fantastic traditional middle class upbringing. Lived 6 blocks from Walter Payton growing up before he made it big and moved to Barrington.
So is that like a gauntlet then, being the youngest? Did you just get passed around getting beat up by older brothers and siblings, or was it pretty much a cool everybody got along type with brothers and sisters?
Well, if your siblings are closer in age to you, I think that you probably would get the beat up, beat down kind of a thing.
Yeah.
The only injuries, if you will, that I received from siblings was my older brother, who was 7 years older than me. It was typically because we were playing basketball where he was on his knees and we had a Nerf, Nerf hoop. And he would play, and I think one time he fell on me on accident and broke my pinky. But I was kind of, I wasn't, it wasn't a traditional older brother, older sister that's a year or 2 years apart where you're arguing over a piece of clothing or whatever, and you're gonna fight it out. I was the baby, like traditional baby. And so. How did I grow up? I was a fantastic athlete as a child.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with my siblings, my 2 brothers, great athletes. My dad was a great athlete and coached all the time. And so, I played a lot of sports. I had an interesting childhood in that I was born with 2 lazy eyes. Eyelids. Not eyes, but the eyelids.
Wow. Okay.
So that was a little bit nerve-wracking in that, and you don't know this, right? You don't know you're different until somebody tells you are.
Yeah.
So there were times, we'd go to the mall and a lot of times adults would say, what the hell's wrong with that kid? Or look at that kid, right? So you don't know until, like I said, you don't know that there's something different or wrong about you until people make you feel that you're different, whatever. Yeah. But so that was a bit trying. I think that wore on me a bit, and that certainly, when you combine that with being a really good athlete, and a lot of the kids in the neighborhood that I played with, I would play sports with, were a year or 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Well, when you whip their ass in sports, what do they immediately turn to? So now
anything they can.
Yeah. So look at his eyes, whatever. So, I got duct taped to trees every once in a while and got balls thrown at me. And then my older brother I'd come home, of course, in hysterics crying. And my older brother would go, where are they?
Yeah. Point them out.
And I'd go, well, they're all over there. And he goes, how many? I go, there was 3 or 4. He goes, okay. So he goes, let's go.
Was your older brother Nick Verzillo? No.
Yeah. So they look alike. But yeah, we would go find the 3 or 4, and he would go, which one do you want? I go, that one.
Yeah.
And he would hold the other 3, and then I would take it to the one, and
that's classic.
And then that would stop for a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then it would come back. So yeah, that was a bit interesting. And but luckily, my dad got promoted. Luckily and unluckily. Like I loved where I was, but my dad got promoted. We moved to Atlanta. He got promoted to take over the Southeast region of Kraft Foods.
So from 2.5 to what age did you then move to Atlanta?
Moved to Atlanta in I was 9.
9. Okay.
So I think I was 4th grade.
Wow. How did that go? Because it's like you just start to make friends and kind of maybe build a home at the school and sports and community, and then you uproot and head to Atlanta.
It sucked.
Yeah.
I told my parents there was no way in the world that I would ever say y'all. I'm not saying it.
Fair
like
point.
A kid born
in the Midwest too.
Born in New Jersey.
Yeah.
From Chicago, right?
Yeah, right?
So I got this mutt accent of East Coast and Midwest, right?
Y'all.
And now I'm going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right? And everything's y'all. And I fell in love with Atlanta.
Yeah.
We had this we lived in Norcross. We had this great house behind the Chattahoochee River. There was tennis courts in our neighborhood. There was a pool with diving boards. It was hilly.
Yeah. Wow.
There's no hills in Illinois.
No.
So I was like, holy cow, I can ride my bike down that thing and pick up some speed. And
the weather.
And it was just a great community. There was so many kids. I mean, we got on our bikes. We rode everywhere. We did everything. Yeah. And then I got corrective eye surgery there too.
Okay.
My parents got me corrective eye surgery. So the way you see my eyes now, I have scars over my eyelids. But
wow.
I don't know if I could pull up pictures. I was down in Florida. We have a house down there they share with my siblings. It was my parents' house that we inherited when they passed, and there's a whole bunch of pictures there. And I don't have any pictures of before the corrective surgery.
Okay. So this could be a total lie, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I don't. In my house currently, okay. I don't have them, but they exist.
There.
So I was looking through and I found some of the pictures there, and then I left them there. But
so then all the ladies started lining up, right? No.
Yeah, actually, I got a sweet bowl cut. Man, and
Okay. And so Atlanta was 9 years old. How long were you down there for?
Okay, so I have to tell you this.
Yeah.
Because part of the package that my dad got to move to Atlanta, because he's uprooting at that time.
Yeah.
At that time, it was only the younger 3. So my older brother Pat and my sister Susan. The rest were off. They either stayed in Chicago. One was in Delaware. My older brother was, already in the sales game and making his way.
Yeah.
And my sister Susan was on her way to college. So the only ones that were actually really in school were me and my older brother Pat, who was a sophomore in high school or junior in high school. And so Atlanta was awesome though, because my dad, as part of the package, negotiated that he was going to have front row tickets to the Atlanta Braves, 50-yard line tickets to the Falcons.
Wow.
And 20th row for the Atlanta Hawks.
Okay.
So I was there. I was there for the Spud Webb, Dominique Wilkins days for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
I was there when the Falcons stunk, but they had Billy White Shoes Johnson returning punts, like the tail end of his career. And they had Georgia was really good, like Georgia Bulldogs. They have Tim Worley, like really good. But the Atlanta Braves had Dale Murphy, Bob Horner, Ozzie Virgil, Bruce Benedict, Glenn Hubbard. Like I can name the whole thing. And the reason being is we had front row tickets right behind the Braves dugout. And I was this little bowl-haired, bowl-cut-haired kid with his glove, just like animated and so excited. Yeah. And every time the players would come off after warming up, they'd flip the ball. And I have a box of baseballs at home from all these players that threw me balls and foul balls that I caught. And so, but they were terrible.
Oh.
They were awful. This is let's see here. This is like 80, I want to say it's like 83 to 88.
Okay.
I want to say 83 to 88. And they were awful.
The people?
No, the people were awesome. The team, the Braves stunk.
Oh, God.
They were terrible. It was bad baseball, but it was your front row.
It's like Angels in the Outfield. That's the plot.
But I got interviewed. Remember Craig Sager? Who did TBS? Sideline reporting for all the basketball games with the crazy suit. Well, he worked for TBS. TBS was out of Atlanta. And he did the Braves games. So I was this might have been my first television spot.
Okay.
I was at I was at Phil Necro, the knuckleballer's last game.
Okay.
And so he was going around the stands interviewing. He wanted to interview the generation. So he interviewed some lady that was like in her 80s. Mm-hmm. He interviewed somebody, like a middle-aged person, 40s, 50s, whatever. And then he wanted to find a kid. So he came and he found me, and I was on the in Atlanta 11 o'clock news.
Okay.
On the sports section, and he asked me, like, what is it like to be at Phil Necro's game? And I think it's really neat. So it's cool.
Neato.
It's really neato.
Yeah, I feel like internet sleuths out there. Let's go find that footage. I think we can find it.
No,
send it to us.
Yeah, so I've looked it up. So I had some really amazing experiences in Atlanta. Baseball was damn near year round. I love that. Mm-hmm. This is where I got introduced really to golf. Funny story. I started playing golf in Arlington Heights, and the way that my dad discovered that I was playing golf is I was hitting golf balls off of the house next to us. I was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And I took one of his clubs, like an adult club. Like an 8 or 9 year old shouldn't be able to swing like an adult 7-iron
baseball bat.
So I was hitting golf balls, and in those days it was aluminum siding, if you recall.
Oh yeah.
And I was putting like hail-sized dents in the guy's siding. And so the neighbor comes over, rings the doorbell, and goes, I think your kid has ruined my siding. My dad's like, how in the world would he have done that? And he's like, well, he's hitting golf balls off of it. And all the dents were like second floor.
Yeah.
My dad's like, there's no way that my kid is hitting golf balls. But my dad covered that. And then like shortly after that, he like took me to the driving range. He's like, oh shit. Okay.
No kidding.
He can hit the ball.
Yeah, you were.
So when we moved to Atlanta, he joined a country club. My mom would drop me off at the country club in the summertime, give me $20, and she'd leave.
Yeah.
That's how safe the world was. And I would play, I would just go, I had my little cart and I put my clubs on there, and I'd go play 18 holes, and I just kind of figured the game out on my own. There were other kids around there. So that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And, my dad being executive for the Southeast region of Kraft Foods, like, we got to do really cool things. While we were down there is when they invented Bullseye barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah.
And so they made it like their own brand. So they had a Bullseye barbecue sauce NASCAR.
Yeah.
And so I got to go to the Daytona 500 and not only be in the center, but I got to sit in. Sterling Marlin was the driver.
Oh my God.
Sterling Marlin. How about that for a name? He was the driver for NASCAR, and I got to sit in the NASCAR. And I just had an absolutely fantastic childhood in that regard.
And so when you're in Atlanta at that age, when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. Like that was my preschool, which I still do kind of to this day. But did you know at that age at all what you want to do when you're that into sports where you're like, I'm going to be a baseball star. I'm going to be a golf star. Like
I was absolutely going to be a baseball player. There was zero doubt. That was absolutely it. And I was one of those kids that like, I think when I was 12, my travel team took second in the state of Georgia.
Oh,
like
wow.
we were in the finals to go to the Little League World Series for so we had to get out of the state of Georgia, and then we lost to Buckhead. Well, Buckhead was the team that had all of the Atlanta Braves like kids on the team.
Oh, jeez.
So I think they just absolutely
don't feel good about that win.
No, they clubbed there still, but really good team. But I played for Murphy Candler, and our team lost to Buckhead. Buckhead then went on to essentially compete in the Southeast region. I don't know who became the finalist out of that, but we had a really good team. I played shortstop and pitched on that team.
There you go.
And it was all about, like, golf was starting to come into the picture, but baseball was absolutely the thing.
Well, I have to imagine too, when you're at the golf course, you're not seeing other 12, 13, 14-year-olds there that are doing what you're doing, right? It's just a bunch of older country club gentlemen.
I was like 10, 11, and I was hanging I was shooting in the 90s.
Jeez.
That's
crazy.
I probably cheated a little bit, but when you're 10 or 11, you don't know any better. But I was shooting, anywhere from low to high 90s, about 5 months in.
Yeah, I was just trying not to break a club or lose all the balls before getting off the course at that age. And so in high school, did you continue playing baseball and all that?
Yeah. So my baseball journey was pretty interesting. So when we moved, my dad got promoted again, and we came back to Illinois.
Okay.
I was pissed.
Well, you're losing all those perks.
Oh my God. It was, and I had just this group of like 25 friends,
of course.
Just like, I was making a name for myself in sports. I was really upset.
Yeah.
Man, interesting enough how things happen. When you're a grown man, you make decisions in the best interest of your family, but also your own career. Mm-hmm. My dad did everything in his power to create the greatest life for all of us.
Yeah.
But he also was so focused on his career success and what he was doing for his company and for customers, and it meant a lot to him. And you don't realize that when you're a kid. Like, you think you're very me. We just took an interesting path, and I was kind of thrust into sales.
Okay.
So took a straight commission sales job at a complete pyramid scheme in Chicago called PI Entertainment. What's up, Devin? If you're still around, probably have no idea that I exist. But
behind bars?
I have no idea, but this guy had a really cool thing. So he would go to paintball parks and cruise, like Chicago cruises, Lake Michigan and the river and whatever. And he would essentially say, hey, look, how much does it cost for a ticket? And they'd be like $25. He goes, well, I tell you what, if I can get 10 people to come to your boat for this tour, they're going to buy food, beverage. They're going to come back. They're going to bring friends. And it's this marketing. So the marketing idea is like, if I can get 10 people to come at a discount, significant discount, they'll come back again because they had such a great experience.
Yeah.
And the boat would be like, all right, cool. So just get them here. So what was $25, he would essentially arrange a deal that there would be 10 tickets, the equivalent of $250 of value, but we would sell it 10 for $30.
Okay.
And so what I would do is I would get the inventory. He'd give me like $420 worth of inventory, and whatever I sold, I kept half, and he kept the other half.
Okay.
And what the boat place or the paintball park got was people in the door for the first time or whatever that would buy all the other ancillary stuff that they were selling at margin, and they would come back because they had great experience. So I got like super good at that. I made like $82,000 cash in like 10 months, my first, and I'm like, I'm rich.
This is it.
And I figured out the sales game, and then I talked to a buddy of mine who said, hey, my older brother is a lot like you, and he, he's in the sales game, and he went and found this consulting firm, and he's in inside sales, and like he's killing it. And he's like, I think you're as good or a better salesperson than him. So he made the introduction. I went in for the interview, and they hired me. And next thing you know, I was selling small business consulting.
Okay, so
and that was the first professional job.
Do you think if you stayed at the first one, you would have gotten in trouble at all? Or
no, when I say pyramid scheme, I don't mean like we were ripping anybody off. What I mean is it was it wasn't like a sustainable business. He wasn't trying to scale it to 90 people and set up corporate layers. This was a dude who had just figured out an in. And, you know, I was selling, and then he would hire 2 other straight commission people, and I would go around and train them.
Gotcha.
But I knew that it was just a way to make a living, right?
Okay. And stepping into your first official sales job, you know, what was that? How many people were at that business?
800.
Okay.
So there was 800 people at the total company. It was layered, right? So it was, you had your appointment setters that would write these leads, right? And they would make 200 phone calls. They would write 10 appointments. And the idea was they had to write the appointment in a territory for a specific sales rep. We called it booking appointments, right? So they would have to book, they would have 2 sales reps. They would have to book their day for the next day. So each one would get anywhere from 4 to 5 appointments. So they had to write 9 appointments per day for the next day.
Wow.
And so then the salesperson would go out and meet with the small business owner. And if they didn't close them, they had 3 weeks to close them, and the lead was protected for 3 weeks. And if they didn't close it, then it would go into the inside sales department, which I joined. And then we would essentially call that client and take it over.
Okay.
And essentially offer like discount. We did whatever we had to do to get people in the door. And the outside sales and inside sales job was the same thing, which was to get an analyst booked to go in and run a 2-day, no upfront cost, no obligation business analysis where they would analyze top to bottom everything in the organization, cash flow, accounts receivable, taxes, I mean, everything. And come back to them after 2 to 3 days with essentially a breakdown of here's where you're strong, here's where you're weak, here's 5 things you could do, and then offer them 3 options. They could do number 1, nothing at all, which means they didn't even have to pay the fee, which sucked.
Yeah.
Because then the salesperson didn't get paid. So that happened like 7% of the time. The second thing was they could take the ideas or recommendations, pay the fee. So then the sales team would get paid, and try them on their own and reach out to us whenever they needed if they wanted to hire us. Yeah. Or we knew that if they knew how to fix these problems, first off, they didn't know the problems existed. Secondly, if they knew how to fix them, they would have fixed them already.
Right.
So they could hire us to do the consulting at that time, $175 an hour, which eventually got up to $275 an hour. But they would hire us for $175 an hour at a 3-to-1 guarantee return. And it was on a project basis. They had to pay at the end of each week. And so if you were really, really good, you would sell surveys that the analysts would get a warm welcome from the client.
Yeah.
Client be excited, participate, and then wanted to fix their business and would hire us for a project, and then you would get another kickback. Well, dude, I got really good at this.
Yeah.
And so I cash collected $1.2 million in my first 9 months there, and got invited to Las Vegas for the award ceremony, met Bill Russell. Wow. Bill Russell gave me my award, my Outstanding Achievement Award. I was surrounded by the best sales talent. It's just unbelievable. Also, some kind of not so up and up people.
Sure.
They're at every place, but and it got a little shaky. But I always tried to recognize that my customers were buying from me, and I didn't want to worry about the people around me. Yeah. And that was a young thing, but man, I got really good at it.
Yeah.
And so then next thing you know, I was like, within 2 years, I was running the Atlantic Coast region.
So was it safe to say, like, the sales bug bit you that quick? And, you know, starting with, I don't even want to go back to maybe college pros with that experience. But
no, I learned a lot there, yeah.
But at least with the, you know, the marketing with you know, selling the boat tickets and all that, going into this, now it's like, holy crap. I can make, was it like easy mode for you?
Yeah, it was. But 2 things hit me. Number 1, my dad and my oldest brother were kind of idols to me.
Yeah.
Totally different humans. They always fought. They were like, not fought like in a bad way, but they always had a different perspective of there's 2 ways to get.
Yeah.
Like they loved each other, but it was an oldest boy and a father, both hard-headed, and they both were successful, and they both did it totally different.
Yeah.
And so they were both idols to me. So it was in the DNA. Like but I had that chip on my shoulder, man.
Yeah.
And I also had a little bit of anger. Okay, I've dealt with it. I had a little bit of anger towards my parents because it was like, you know, you could have handled this different. And because of that, like I was seeking out mentorship from other professionals, which anybody I think is going to do in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
Like you've learned what you need to learn from your parents, and now you're going to look for that next level of mentorship. And I found it from multiple people there, but mainly the owner. The owner's son became like a best friend of mine. And just amazing talent at that company still to this day.
Yeah.
Got into some trouble and did some shady things that eventually got corrected and, got washed out and got corrected. But man, I was surrounded by like Wolf of Wall Street / Boiler Room / Glengarry Glen Ross / just some closers.
Yeah.
And when you're around a 55-year-old who's been selling for 30 something years and you're 23 and you're hanging with them or passing them, you go, okay, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And so next thing you know, I go from like dropped out of college. Oh my God, my parents hate me. Oh my God, I'm on my own. Holy cow, I can sell these paintball and cruise tickets pretty good. Holy shit, I'm making a lot of money. How in the world is a small business consulting firm hiring me? Holy shit, I'm really good at this. To next thing you know, I'm like 25 and I'm making like $180,000 a year straight commission, like selling.
And like, what are your, at some point you're obviously letting your parents know about your success. How did they respond to it? Were they still like, have that kind of chip, like you still dropped out though. You didn't get your degree, but
no, that dropped really quick.
Okay. In
fact, one of the shining moments that I can visualize when I close my eyes, and it still kind of puts a knot in my throat. I had in 2005, the owner of the company came into my office and he said, "What kind of car are you driving?" At the time, I was driving the 350Z, like the first. I had one of the first 50 models of the new model of 350Zs that came out. I had like the burnt orange one.
Okay.
I remember getting out of the showroom. It was like the only one they had on the lot.
Yeah.
And man, I had this little speedy car, had this firecracker of a wife. And man, I was just like, I was on fire, right? And he comes to my office and he goes, "What are you driving?" I said, "Well, I'm driving that 3." He goes, "I can't have one of my top performers driving that." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Where do you live?" And I'm like, "Well, I live in this townhouse with my wife and, we're just saving money like crazy, right?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, you're only going to keep making more money here. You're only going to keep performing. You're only going to keep moving up the company." And he was right, but he also was gaining more control of me by doing that. So being influential, and he was my mentor, and I looked up to him almost as much as I looked up to my father, and more so in some other ways, because, my dad was super modest in the way that he handled his money, and there was no flash, so you really never knew how much he had.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy, like, you could tell how much he had, right? And he just was super powerful and this and that. So, it was a little influential, and I kind of regret that now, but I also learned so much from him. And he goes, "You need a new car, and you need to go get an actual house." Okay. So I went out and bought the Lexus IS 350, and this thing had everything on it. It was a brand new model of that. And I went and built a house in an up-and-coming neighborhood that was 4,000 square feet, and it was just me and my wife.
Jeez,
planning, like we were planning, planning to have a family, but like I didn't need that.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty freaking cool house.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So
cool cars, cool house.
Yeah. So like things were rolling pretty good.
Yeah.
And the coolest moment was about 8 months into that. My parents flew out. And it was pretty cool to have them fly out, put them in a guest bedroom.
Yeah.
And my dad was a big Stella drinker. Okay. He loved Stella. Yeah. So I had my fridge was stocked with Absolute vodka, which was his other thing. 530 vodka tonic every single day for this guy. And filled the ice to the brim, 2 lime wedges in there.
Yeah.
And, his pour was like 80% vodka, 20% tonic.
Yeah.
And then he loved the Stella. So we're standing at this island in my kitchen, and he looks at me and he goes, "You've done well." Right. So that was one of the greatest validating moments ever, and one of the worst things that he could have ever said to me.
Yeah.
Because that was all I ever wanted to hear, and I heard it way too early. I wish that he would have never said that to me.
Yeah.
I needed it, but it took my edge away.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, well, I made it. And I didn't. I look back, I haven't made it. I still haven't made it. Yeah. I wish I didn't feel like I had made it at that point, because the minute I felt like I had made it and I had done the thing that I needed to do, which was to prove them wrong, to get their love back and to wash that pain away. I needed that, but I needed it because I sadly recognized that my only real true motivation at that moment was to prove them wrong. And now I had to achieve that. And then I was like, well, what the fuck am I working for now?
Yeah. What's next?
So at that point, it was like, my wife's pregnant and with our first child. And it's like, okay, so now I got to start to reevaluate, like, what is my thing now? What am I fighting for now?
Yeah.
Because I got that validation.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I took a bad route, which you're young and everything is materialistic. And so my thing was like, well, clearly I need to make more money. And that became my
obsession,
my purpose,
my
title, and how much money can I make and how many awards can I get?
Yeah.
Fuck, how wrong was I?
Yeah.
But at that time, and that's how that company operated, man. If you didn't have, if you weren't making bank, didn't have the nicest car, or didn't have stacks of awards around you, and your name wasn't on the leaderboard,
who were you?
Who were you?
Yeah. So that company, how long did you stay there for?
I left there in 2010.
Okay.
Two analysts there, left and purchased a boutique firm that competed with that firm.
Okay.
And they recruited me away to be the director of sales. And I needed to leave there because it was just starting to break me. Like, it was starting to break me down.
I feel like that's just an intense.
It was intense. Like, you could
all
only
the time.
And I don't have I have 0 or 11. I don't have operate at 5 for a little bit and then operate at 7 and then crank it to 10. And I'm either 0 or 11. And I was finding myself driving in tears because I was at 0. And the fuel tank was just gone. And I was starting to look around and I was like, what am I?
It's a soul suck.
Yeah, it was just sucking the soul out of me for sure. I was missing, now my kids are getting a little older playing t-ball. I'm having to ask permission if it's okay to leave 20 minutes early to go to see their game. And I'm having to argue to do it. And it was it just,
yeah, it
just was one of those cultures. It was just hyper intense. And look, it worked really well for them. It was great, but it just wasn't. It wasn't a culture that actually was a culture.
Yeah.
It was a machine. And if you were in that spot in your life where you needed to be part of a machine, it was freaking awesome. But I was in the part of my life where I needed to start to be a father. I needed to kind of see what the world looked like a little bit. Yeah. So I left and I went to be the director of sales there. And we took a $1.2 million company into $9.8 million in 2010 to 2012. And if you recall, in that time frame, it was coming out of a bad economy. It was a pretty tough economy. So we were pretty proud of the fact that we took it from that to that. But we ran into a legal issue with the previous business.
I was going to say poaching or forget the terminology there, but what's it called? Non-compete clause or whatever.
So it was similar to that. And I was kind of hiding for a year, like they didn't know where I was, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were doing brilliant things, but then a judgment got placed on us, and cash was frozen.
Wow.
So the two owners as in any situation like this, there was some infighting. The owner that I lean towards, who I still admire greatly, who's absolutely amazing, phenomenal human. I love him to death, and is recovered amazingly, like bounced back like 20x.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. But he was broken at the time, and he was my friend, and we were in it together, and he was, they were in a tough spot. So they came to me and said, "Hey man, can you help us out financially? Like, we're tapped."
Yeah.
So I took, $45,000 or something like that out of my savings account and swiped a check to cover payroll for the sales team, because these were all my salespeople.
Wow.
And none of the people on the sales team, including my older brother who I had hired, knew that I swiped that check that they could get their check, because we figured, 2 weeks was going to be enough to get us through that. So the judgment got pulled so that we could get by, but now all of a sudden the word was out, lawsuits. So they had to default on their loan. The business went back to the previous owner. No one wanted to work for that previous owner. I then spent 9 months out of work with golden handcuffs on, because I don't know if you know this or not, but there's not a lot of people that are throwing around $200,000 salaries.
No.
And especially if your resume essentially says that you worked at a company that kind of has a bad reputation at that point. And I had a very specific skill set. Mm-hmm. And so I was out of work for 9 months. So all of my savings, everything that I had built, I did everything I could to hang on to the house and to keep the lifestyle. My wife didn't work. Mm-hmm. And my savings went from 6 figures down to 4.
Wow. Holding
on to everything.
Jeez.
And pretty much hit rock bottom and lost everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean, and I know.
So hold on, it gets even better. I had to go crawling back to the old company.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be out of work any longer.
Right.
So I went back to the old company. I'm thankful they brought me back, but boy, they made me eat crow. So I went back into that environment again, and after I had some freedom for 2 years of having a different environment and seeing what the world was like and seeing what my capabilities were and what I was capable of building and what I was able to do, and how I had to go back, and they gave me the worst region. I turned it into the #1 region within a year. And kind of was back on the saddle. But because I was working 12 hours a day there, I knew there was no way for me to find my next thing. So I then elected to go out in the field on straight commission and sell.
Okay.
And you can't sell anything unless your heart and your belief system are totally in it. So I did well. I did like $1.2 million in cash collect or $1.1 million or something like that in straight commission sales. And I made 6 figures, but it wasn't enough. Yeah. And then my wife and I had a conversation, and it was like, you're going to break. Like, you're going to end up in a bad situation. You're going to have a mental breakdown. You got to go do something else. So I then went to this kind of journey of all these interviews, and I was in the same boat. People were seeing where I worked for, or wanted to offer me entry-level roles and this and that. And it was like, I just don't have time for that. I need to kind of walk into a thing. So it became very trying there. I was depleted all my funds. I had lost my confidence. I felt like I felt like God was paying me back.
From what?
Which is a terrible way to think. Mm-hmm. Because God doesn't pay you back. Like, there's no evil in God.
Yeah.
But I convinced myself of that. So that kind of broke my covenant with God. And I kind of tailspin bad. And what it really was shame and regret that that I had made poor decisions, that I had failed, that I had let myself get in this spot, that I had taken my foot off the gas pedal, whatever it was just a culmination. It was, in fact, I had a bottleneck of thoughts that were so big that I couldn't even get my mind wrapped around what it was. But it just felt like failure. I don't handle failure very well. I understand there is no such thing as failure. There's only winning and learning. But it took me a long time to learn that, and a lot of failure to learn that. But it felt like failure. And when we moved from the house, we call it, right, to another house. So any person listening to this call would, or this podcast would be like, that's a nice house, man. Like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
But every day I drove to that house, it felt like failure to me because I didn't choose that house. I didn't earn that house. I fell into that house. So that sent me on a major tailspin. And, you know, you're not exactly going to be successful when you're in a tailspin in anything you do. So I kind of was like, well, I guess I'm going to start over. So I took several different types of jobs. None of them worked out. I hated every one of them. I performed well at all of them. All of them wanted me to stay, but it wasn't right. And so one morning I woke up in 2015, tail end of the year. I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, like cold sweat, like, and I went downstairs and I went on LinkedIn and I went on Career Builder and all of the other whatever apps were on there. And I applied to close to 90 jobs.
Wow.
I mean, it was from like 3:45, 4 o'clock in the morning till like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just applied. So one of these companies reaches out and I took the role. And I took the role thinking it was going to be one thing. I go into the orientation and I started to catch on. I'm like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm leaving the orientation. I'm like calling my wife. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to give it a run, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting in a McDonald's parking lot and the phone rings and it's a HR recruiter from a company that kind of saved me, kind of helped me get back on track, which is my previous organization. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know where that is, right? And that's where kind of life started back over.
Yeah. And what do you think, you know, when you get that phone call and it turns out to be the role that you're looking for?
It wasn't.
Or
I got the phone call. I got the phone call. Lisa Hildeberg will remember this. She no longer works there, but I yelled at her. Oh, no. Because she called up. She said, hey, we got your resume. You look like you'd be perfect for this account manager role. And I went off.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, and shame on me, but not shame on me, but because I had applied for like management role. Like I build sales teams, man.
Yeah.
Like that's what I've done.
Did you look at my resume?
Yeah. And it was like account manager role. Like first off, I hate account management. I would never apply for an account management role. Mm-hmm. If I was going to apply for something, it'd be in sales, it'd be business development.
Yeah.
But certainly not account management. So I like went off and she's like, whoa, wait a minute. I read it wrong. It's for the sales manager role. Oh. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Good save.
Yeah. So then we kind of did like we laughed about it.
Yeah.
And she asked me a question. She said, in 5 words, describe yourself. And what she meant was give 5 separate words.
Yeah, not like a sentence.
Determined, whatever. Yeah. And I gave a sentence. And that sentence was extremely confident with proper humility. Can't believe I just remembered that. But that's the sentence.
Wow.
And it just came off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh my God, well, we're a brand management firm. And that's the best answer that I've ever heard. She's like, you have to come in here. So I went in for the interview. And the gentleman interviewing me showed up about 10, 15 minutes late. And I'm, of course, now nervous. And I'm walking through the sales department. I'm like, okay, there's some cool energy here. And I'm like, I feel something here. And I'm going to tie this together because I don't know if this is the direction you want to go, but we're just riffing, baby.
We're going. It's perfect.
So I'm like sitting there. I had this power blue suit on with a hot pink tie. That was kind of my thing. And the woman at the front desk was like, you look really nice. And I'm like, oh, thanks so much. Right. So I just felt like a good energy there. It kind of felt safe.
Yeah.
So I go into the back conference room and then Lisa's there, the HR manager. And then Chris Tassi comes running in, who's the co-CEO. And he's flipping through my resume. Now, I had been on about 15, 20 interviews prior to this. Mm-hmm. And every time they got to the major chunk of my resume, which was the company that I had referred to, that had established kind of a bad name in the marketplace, a few of them, I could watch their energy change. Or I had a great interview with them, and they said I was absolutely coming back for a second interview. And then they probably did some diving.
Yeah.
And I would get the, with further, after further, whatever, we're no longer going to.
Yeah.
So when he gets to the point where he goes, hey, you used to work at this company? Look, this is a true story. You could confirm it with him. I stood up and put my hand out and I said, is the interview over?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, no. He goes, dude, I used to work there and it was the greatest experience that I ever had. Now, this is what I knew. 90% of the experience that I had there, and 90% of the people, and 90% of the work that was done was nothing short of brilliant.
Yeah.
But the 10% was bad enough that it ruined the 90%.
Yeah.
And that sucked for everyone that fought so hard.
Yeah.
And did so many great things, including the owner's son. It was
really?
Yeah. IT decision makers, this might sting. Frustrated with IT issues, security threats, and the stress of your technology infrastructure, your technology should blend seamlessly with your business objectives. Technology infrastructure management with limited resources can be exhausting and counterproductive. Do you have an MSP but still have problems and technical hiccups? GSD's advisement, proactive maintenance, cutting-edge cybersecurity, cloud solutions, data backup, and local 24/7 help desk can change the game. Your technology should outpace your business operations to allow for growth, and proactive strategies should prevent issues before they arise. Get back your time and your money with GSD. Drive business forward. Leave the technology to GSD. GSDnow.com. He was in that 90%.
Yeah.
And he's taken it to a different direction now. Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, excellent.
And a lot of the executives that stayed there with him. And I wanted to either fix it or leave. And when I figured that I couldn't play a role in fixing it, I got annoyed enough that I had to leave. Right. So he goes, no, I worked at that place. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I used to call and set appointments. I said, okay, so you were a BC. We called them business coordinators. He goes, yeah. I said, interesting. How did you do there? He goes, well, I killed it. I said, where did you write leads? He said, well, I wrote leads for this guy in Connecticut, this guy in Massachusetts and this lady in Connecticut. And I said, you mean John Groner and Marie Catarath? And he goes, what? And I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, it was amazing. All I had to do was write 9-10 appointments a day, 5 for each of them. They go out to the appointments, and before they would leave the appointment, if they couldn't close it on their own, they would call it into this guy, and this guy closed like everything. And every time he closed the deal, like I made bank. He goes, my first paycheck was $3,500 for a week. He goes, I went home to my Romanian father. I was 19 in between college, and I showed him I made $3,500 in a week. And he said, what the hell are you doing there? Are you selling drugs? Like, how are you making this much money? And he goes, no, Dad. I write these appointments. The salespeople go out, and if they close it, I get a commission. If they don't, they have to call it into this executive, and the guy closes everything. And I go, that was me. He goes, what? I said, yeah, that was me. Now, he was in a different building than me, but he actually was my employee because I oversaw the whole region.
Yeah.
And he didn't know who I was, and I was closing all those deals. So he then goes, oh, my God, and I saw his expression change, and he's like, this guy knows what he's doing and this and that. And he goes, you got to come and talk to my partner and interview with him. And went and met with him and a partner out at a restaurant, and we hit it off, and it was a great experience. And they said, well, how much do you need to make? And I was so desperate and so down and so beat up and so in desperate need of being on a team and needed a mission and just needed a chance to rebuild my life. And I said, well, I'll take the role for X. And they said, can you step out for like 20 minutes? So I stepped out for 20 minutes, and they came back and they said, well, the role is yours if you want it, but you're worth more than that. So we're going to pay you this.
Whoa.
And they said, if you do what you say you can do, we will very quickly move you up to this. And so within like 90 days, I got a pay increase. And within like a year and a half, I got a promotion and another pay increase. And
jeez.
And the rest was history.
Wow.
Just kind of took off.
That's, I mean, small world, so to speak.
Yeah.
How it all comes together. And, I have to imagine too, because interviewing for positions, whether it's sales or IT or anywhere, I feel like sales is very cutthroat from an interview process. Is it not? I feel like, how do you, because your goal is to sell yourself to get the job. Whereas like in IT or a lot of people are nervous. They know their technical terms and everything, but they might not know how to sell themselves. So what have you seen either yourself or just interviewing folks in sales? Like what's the key factor that this person's it over another person?
Well, number one, the art of sales, in my opinion, is the transfer of energy. So a lot of it has to do with tonality, the ability to communicate and articulate, the ability to take something extremely complex and make it very simple to understand. That's effective communication. So I don't know. I don't really hire salespeople because I think they're super smart. I hire salespeople because they're going to have an unbelievable ability to connect with others. At the end of the day, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. In order to establish that, you have to grab the attention of someone and make them feel something. Otherwise, they're not really going to want to know you.
Yeah.
And they're likely not going to like you. And you can't get to trust unless you got the first two. It's no like and trust. And nobody trusts somebody unless they know them and like them a little bit, right? Yeah. So for me, I enjoy interviewing. I've always enjoyed interviewing because for me, it's really just a transfer of energy. It's tonality, it's body language, it's knowing how to tell a story, it's being compelling, and it's not answering a question that you don't have an answer for. Instead, asking a question to make sure you understand the type of answer they want, and then filling the blank, which is impressive to an interviewer because how you interview is going to be how you sell. It's a microcosm of how you are going to interact with the marketplace. So the other mistake that I think a lot of salespeople make is you're supposed to close deals. And part of closing deals is showing interest. You need to show interest in the customer and the client, not only for the opportunity, but just interest in that human being that's across from you. Mm-hmm. Like interest in their problems, their concerns, their wants, their needs, interest in finding a solution for them, interest in changing their life for the better. And so there's a few things. Number one, I asked every interviewer, how do I make your life better if I get this job? Like, how do I get you promoted?
Yeah.
So I would ask an interviewer, how do I get you promoted? Like, if you give me this job, how do I get you promoted? Because typically the final interview is going to be with somebody that you're reporting to.
Yeah.
Secondly, I ended every interview asking for the job. I don't ask what next steps are, right? I would say, hey, look, I really love this opportunity and I really feel like I will do amazing things. And I can tell you that I may not be the smartest, most qualified person for the role, but I will run through walls and you will see that I am the most passionate, most energetic, and I will fight the hardest. But I also have the talent and the skill set to do it. And this is a role that I want. What do you need to know? What else do you need to know in order to offer me this role?
Yeah.
And I don't hear enough salespeople do that in an interview. Like, if you're not going to ask for the order for your livelihood, how can I trust that you're going to ask for the order for our company?
Yeah. And I can, just since I've done a lot of interviewing just again for IT, but I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of like just the sense of energy, the transfer, because I've heard a lot of interviews where they just sound defeated. Okay, this is just interview number 6 this week. And
because they're looking for a job.
I'm not going to get it. And let's just go through the motion so I can please my spouse or my parents or whatever.
Or the unemployment agency.
But then you get the folks that are coming in super excited. They've done all the history on the company. They basically have placed themselves already in that position the entire interview.
Yes.
And it's like there's no gaps left for me to say no.
Correct.
Like it's so apparent in sales. I'm sure it fits a similar.
Well, there's too many people that are looking for a job.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for a job, first off, you need to change your mindset. Because what you really should be looking for is something that your lifestyle fits with, that you can grow and advance with, a career, a place where you can be part of a team, where there's career path, where you have a chance to professionally develop. And these are terms that I would say in the interview. Like, I'm applying for this role, but in 3 years, I want to be in this one.
Yeah.
Like, I would tell them that before they could ask it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm applying for the sales manager role, but my ambition is to be the director of sales. And I have a game plan in my mind that I will be there within a year and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I wish more people would come in, because I will ask salespeople in an interview. I say, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And they're kind of like, they haven't even thought about it. It's like, well, if you don't know where you want to be in 3 years, like, how can I trust you to manage a forecast, manage a pipeline? Like, how can I trust you to take where you're at and advance it? Because you're not critically thinking.
Or think that we should invest the time and energy in you that you might not even be here.
You're not even investing in yourself.
You're just looking for the next $5 more for whatever down the street or from home or whatever it might be. That's
all right. So this is going to freak you out.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I walk out of the first interview with the Lisa and Chris, right? And I see numbers. I call them God winks. I see numbers. Right now, I keep seeing 444 all the time. It means allow divine timing to work. So my angels, God, I hear you, I see you, I get it, and I'm listening. But prior to that, I was seeing 1018 all the time. I would look at the clock randomly, it would be 1018. I would look at mileage on my car, it'd be 1018. I'd look at a piece of content that I posted, it would be 1018, just like I would see it all the time. Well, what's interesting is 1018 is my birthday. So remember that mental state that I told you about where I kind of crashed out a little bit? I had some real issues with my birthday. Like, I couldn't celebrate it. I didn't want a card. I didn't want anyone to recognize me. I couldn't embrace it. I hated my birthdays. I would disappear on the day. I would just, and this was like for 5-6 years straight, just disappear. Like, I would be gone. And I hated the idea of it. Could you imagine being that off, depressed, anxious, that your own day of birth could set you off into a spiral? But that's where I was. So I kept seeing the number 1018, and I thought that what that number meant was that something bad was going to happen to me. So I interviewed for that role in October or November of that year. And when 1018 came, nothing bad happened. So I was kind of like, okay, so what does this mean? So when I left that interview, I got in my car and I turned on the car and it was 1018.
Oh, jeez.
And I went, okay. So I went home and I opened up the Bible and I was like, well, where is this? Where should I look? So I went to John 10:18. And John 10:18, I'll paraphrase, but essentially what it says is God can give you all the power and then take it away from you. But he also has the power to give it back to you.
Wow.
And so what I saw, that is a message to me that I had all the power. And because I wasn't living a pure life, I wasn't living a Christian life, I was living a life of motivation through spite. I was living a life of materialistic beliefs. I was living a life of me. I wasn't in touch with God. I just was making bad decision after bad decision that God took it away from me. And that was where that gap was. And that this now was my opportunity where he was going to give it back. And so I rode with that. And I rode with that in my heart and my mind, and I let it eat.
Yeah.
I let it go to work.
And so from that point in time, were you then celebrating birthdays after that and seeing more of a positive? No.
That took me a little bit.
Yeah.
We did some absolutely amazing things, and we did some really, really great things to get ourselves right financially and to take care of the family and to get myself back to where I, felt like I was accomplished and so on. But again, completely missed the whole meaning of life. All materialistic, all title, all control, all power, all who I am, all persona. So even though I was given this shot, I still missed the meaning. So I had to have another crash out, which we can get into or not, but that crash out was the actual rebirth.
Yeah. And so I definitely want to touch on the crash out, but I'm just curious at this point, to what you've talked about thus far, if you could quickly time machine back to your 14-year-old, 18-year-old self, like what advice would you have given yourself just to try to maybe get through some of those tough times, or maybe even take a different direction or path, or would it have even worked?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I would have listened to my mom and dad that you have to put Jesus first. And that God loves me, and you have to have a relationship with God and Jesus. You have to have a relationship with Jesus, and you have to talk to him, and you have to work on the inside out, not the outside to the in. So I was spending a lot of time on what the outside looked like, and I was destroyed on the inside, and I would tell that kid that, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about you or they see if you don't have what you think about you right and what you see about you right. And that is not external, that's internal. And I would have encouraged that 14-year-old to start discipline types of behaviors, repetition type behaviors. What's interesting, if I would live my life, or if I would have lived my life the way that I play golf, I'd probably be a lot further along. Like if I did everything in my life the way I approach my passion for golf, like the endless hours of practice that nobody sees. And the repetition of that. If I would do that in other things in my life, how far along would I be? And so, give it to God first would have been number one. Number two would have been live a life that's righteous and disciplined. And Number three would have been that no matter how great you think you are, you're not even close yet. So you better keep your foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
And don't ever take your foot off the gas pedal. The second you start to coast, eventually you will stop. And when you stop, it is very difficult to get started again. And if you stop and you're not in the right situation, that stop will mean that it nestles in. And when it nestles in, it becomes even harder to get it going. I look at life like a boulder. When a boulder is rolling, it's really easy to keep it rolling. When a boulder is at a dead stop and has been sitting there for an extended period of time, you have to rock it. You have to push it and rock it and push it and rock it. And sometimes when you rock it, it could roll back on you and roll over you. So you have to push it and rock it and push it and rock it. Eventually you get it over that ledge. And once you get it over that ledge, then you got to put your shoulder into it and you got to get it going. And then it takes repetition of continuing to push that thing to keep it moving and keep it rolling. And, you got to push it long enough to get to the flat part or the downhill part where it gets real easy.
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have known that if you take your foot off the gas pedal, that boulder gets really heavy and it nestles in and then it becomes very difficult.
Yeah. And I know we've kind of mentioned it and I know you've posted about it before. And if you're okay with talking about it, but you just mentioned kind of the rock bottom.
Yeah.
And kind of going through that incredibly difficult time, and just curious of that experience from your point of view, and just kind of walking us through just the order of events or how things went down. Because, hey, I'll say this. I'm glad that I met you. I'm glad you're here.
I appreciate it.
All of our listeners and all of our coworkers and everybody, and I'm sure family and friends all love you. And so I'm just, curious if you want to.
Well, thank you, Eric. And I'll receive that, because I wouldn't have received it years ago. I would have nodded my head at you and smiled at you and wouldn't have believed it. But I'll receive that. So thank you.
Of course.
First off, I lived a persona where everyone thought that I was really, really doing well and really good, and I had this lifestyle and I had this title and I was making hay, and I was on social media and creating a persona that I was this and was that, and I was dying inside, and I was abusive to alcohol and substances, and just in a really bad way. And I'm going to look right in the camera right now and just tell you that alcohol and depression do not mix. So I was doing what a lot of people do, which is when you do all the things on the outside, the material things, and you seek happiness because of them, and then you recognize that you're not happy and you've achieved them, you break. Because you go, wait a minute, I thought this was the thing that was going to make me happy. So I've reached this level. I've got, like, I appear that I have it all together, but I'm not happy. I feel empty. I feel like a shell of myself. So you go, well, wait a minute, like, this was the thing. This was the thing I was searching for. And I pulled it off. Like, I went from rock bottom, lost everything, to going through like this what I felt like was a thing that the God was punishing me. Like, I was being dragged through this to all the stuff, like turning it around. And like, people are looking at me going, yeah, we're here because of some of the ideas and the fact that this guy's collaborating with us. And that's why we're here. And this company's growing and going, and people are developing, and on the outside it looks awesome, but I'm dying inside. So you feed that beast. So, you start doing things that are destructive. You start drinking way too much and carrying on, and you try and just numb it. And that doesn't work either. And then you're like, so if that doesn't work, so if reaching a level of success, getting the title back, getting close to where you need to be financially, starting to build back, that doesn't make you happy. And then like the party lifestyle added to that doesn't make you happy. And like friends and family don't make you happy. Like, well, why even exist? So, December 19th, 2023, I had a break moment. I got in my car, drove as fast as I could. My plan was to drive myself into a wall, bridge embankment, something. Closed my eyes several times at 140 miles an hour with the idea that I was going to do it. Every single time I would kind of swerve a little bit to see if I could do it. Of course, just to be mindful, this was out in the way open. There was no one around. I wasn't going to injure anybody. I was trying to injure myself. And I couldn't. Something kept talking to me, saying, not now. Not yet. Not now. Not now. And, my phone's going off the hook. Text messages are coming in. Everyone's freaking out. And so I hit rock bottom. And I ended up spending some time in the hospital and got right. But the first thing I got right with was God. So first day in the hospital, I pouted. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I wouldn't eat. Then somebody came to me and said, if you want to get out of here, you have to play the game. You have to cooperate. You have to go do the things. Like, you can't just stay in your room, because the longer you just stay in here, you'll stay in here.
Yeah.
So I went to the desk and said, give me a journal. So what do you need a journal for? I said, well, I'm going to write in it. So I took out the journal and I went into the journal and I just started writing. And one of the first things I did was I asked for forgiveness. And then I wrote down that I forgive myself. And then that's when the work started. And then I just started mapping out plans, goals. Wrote up like 20 pages. Just filled it. And then got out of the hospital, went back, apologized to my family, apologized to everyone that I knew. And they accepted the apology, but at arm's distance, like, yeah, we'll see, kind of a thing. Rightfully so. Don't blame them. And then the work started. I started reading, self-help, all self-help, right? And started putting those actions in place. Project 369, Bible Basics for Catholics, Atomic Habits, Think You Go Rich, Good to Great. I mean, some of them are on the set here. I just started reading, but I didn't really just read them. I took notes, like I wrote. So I would read a chapter and I would write on it like book reports. You're talking to a guy that probably in his lifetime had honestly completed like 2 books, like from cover to cover. Yeah. I skimmed a whole bunch. I went to page 36, found the thing I needed.
Close it.
Then went to page 60 and never fully, right? Enough to be dangerous to make it appear.
Mm-hmm.
But now I convinced myself, like, I'm going to be a reader. So I just started reading. I read like 7 books in like a month and a half. Just went off and just started devising my plans. And since then, I think today is 490 days sober. 30 years of smoking cigarettes. So I quit drinking, quit smoking cigarettes, and quit all the other insanity.
Yeah.
490 days ago. No cravings, no nothing.
It's amazing.
Rear end in church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Talking to God every day. Praying constantly. Journaling 4 or 5 times a day.
Wow.
Continue to read.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Yeah. Just that's, I don't even know if I would have the strength to do half those things you just mentioned.
Sure you would. Everyone does, but it starts with God, because you don't have the strength to do it on your own. Nobody does. You have to have a higher power, a higher source, and extreme levels of discipline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll just go back.
And, I in my personal life, I've at times questioned, God and all that, because there was a string where, we talked on my podcast a little bit about a car accident that I had, and my buddy passed away in the car accident.
Yep.
And then about a year and a half later, my mom suddenly passed away when I'm 26. And it's like, well, what was that for? What am I going to learn from that? You took away my mother in my life. And so we've had a rocky relationship with it, but I've, to some of the things you brought up too, where, in the immediate aftermath of those things, I would go seek out, like, go and drinking in the basement.
Yep.
Just, let's push it down, but then realizing that wasn't helpful, going and speaking with people, my family, my friends, and just letting them know how I'm feeling, because everyone asks how you're feeling, but I'm okay, I'm fine. In reality, you want to say, this sucks. I miss my mommy. I want a hug from her. I want to hear a phone call.
Yep.
But like, if you don't tell people those things, then it just stays bottled up, and it's I know.
Well, look, here's the deal. Like, everyone's journey is going to be different. I have a testament. My testimony is real. It's raw. I was there. I felt it. Mm-hmm. I get signs constantly now. I told you, I got one today. I looked at a thing on my computer, and it was 444 again. Like, it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that somebody sees the numbers 444 15 times a week in 7 different ways, and that is not something happening.
100%.
So that's what's happening to me. So I would tell you this, like, nobody can convince you to establish a relationship with God. Nobody can tell you that. you have to come to that on your own. And some people are a little bit more difficult to achieve that. My prayer for anyone on this, listening to this, and for you is that at some point you have that moment because it's very powerful.
Yeah. Gosh, man. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. 490 days, you said?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome, man. Really,
When
congratulations.
this airs, it'll be 500.
500. Wow.
Something.
Even bigger celebration.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's awesome. I've got a couple final questions for
sure.
you. I guess one thing I'm always interested in is if anybody, and of course yourself, if you could switch careers, if you were to just go back in time or another parallel universe or wherever, what career do you think you would be in? Let's say with no baseball and no sales or brand champion.
Yeah.
What other career do you think you would be interested in taking on?
Well, I'm going to give you the easiest one. And for me,
Podcast host? No.
no, it would be professional golfer.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't necessarily just mean like on tour. Like even a teaching pro.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I wish that I would have not been so angry at 18 years old when I missed that cut. I wish I wouldn't have been such a baby and like such a powder. And so, because I should have stuck with it. I should have stuck with the game. And I kick myself left and right. So that would be one. Two would be to be a commentator. A sports commentator of some sort.
Oh, hell yeah.
Whether like a color analyst or even an announcer. I know a lot about sports. I love sports. I can talk the talk. I still am contemplating if I need like a side personal podcast to talk sports. So maybe that's in my future. But what's interesting that you asked that is I have had a career change. And so I never intended to be a content creator. I started creating content because as a director of sales at my previous organization, COVID happened and the phone stopped ringing. And I had 30-something salespeople, of which 17 we had just onboarded months earlier through an alignment/acquisition.
Yeah.
And we were cranking. We were up 40% over the year before. And the year before was a 35% record-breaking year. And we were up 40% in the first 2 months over that. So like we were absolutely killing it. And then the phone just stopped ringing. And it was like, all I'm seeing on the news is people getting furloughed left and right. And I'm like, I love these people. Like, I don't want to have to furlough them. But these, when you're in that role, you're in the inner circle and you're in the 5, 6, 7 people that are making the key decisions for an organization. And you've got people's livelihoods in your hands.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we did have to furlough like 5 or 6 people. Luckily, we were able to bring 3 or 4 of them back.
Yeah.
But there was talk at one point we were going to have to furlough 15, 16, 17 salespeople, maybe more, if the sales didn't pick up. We were having, prior to that, $500,000 to $700,000 sales weeks for a small to mid-sized company in our industry that put us in the top 40, top 50 for size of company, and it all just stopped.
Yeah. And
so we were kind of in a panic mode. So I didn't know what else to do to get the phones to ring. And I kept going to the salespeople and being like, what's going on? They're like, we couldn't get a hold of anyone before. Like we're not getting a hold of anyone. And if we do, they're like, don't even call me because everything is shut down.
The world is closed.
There's no marketing events. There's no trade shows. And we were selling branded apparel and promotional products, like 4 events.
Yeah.
So it just stopped. So the ownership, the marketing team, myself, some other folks, contributed to coming up with 10 marketing strategies in 5 days. A few of them hit big. And then we had to kind of reinvent the way that the sales approach was and how we were going to get this to the marketplace. We had really no LinkedIn presence as an organization. I think when I took over the LinkedIn channel there, we had like 500, 600 followers. And I had, 1,500 followers, but it was kind of I just had followers because back 5-6 years earlier, you could connect with 1,000 people in a week. Now you can only connect with 100. But so, you know, they weren't really followers. I don't even know if they were connections. I wasn't doing anything on LinkedIn. So yeah, like I kind of dilly-dallied a little bit in 2019 with creating a little bit of content just because I was recruiting salespeople and I was just letting them know that we had a job out. But yeah, when COVID happened, I started like creating like, did you know videos and like showing people our equipment and like showing our culture and introducing our products and services and our team to the marketplace. And I just started standing with a camera on in front of me and just started creating. And one of the things that I had pitched in like 2019, I kept saying like, we're so dynamic and there's such amazing things that we do. And there's so many brands that we're working for that are like elite, highly recognizable brands that we like need to tell the marketplace like who we are and how great we are because we should be proud of this. Yeah. This is amazing stuff that we're doing. Like, but nobody knows but us and the company we're giving the stuff to. Like, right. If the world knew who we were working with, they'd be like, well, if it's good enough for them, then we're good enough for them. Like, we need to work with them, right? Yeah. So I said, you know, and so many just crazy personalities doing amazing things. It was like, I pitched the owners. I'm like, we need a podcast. And they're like, what are you talking? I'm like, what are you talking about, a podcast? Yeah. And they kind of laughed, like, aha, right, whatever. And I was kind of like halfway committed. I was like serious, but not serious. You know, like,
how am I going to do this if they say yes?
Yeah, like I'm joking, but I'm also behind the scenes dead serious. Yeah. And so I just kept saying it enough, and then a few times I said it seriously, and I had built up enough content creation that it was starting to kind of make sense. And so then next thing you know, I came in one day and all the equipment was like on my desk in boxes. And I was like, this is badass. And then we launched the podcast and we took off and I kept creating content. So, but I was a director of sales. I never had an intention to get into content creation. I was a director of sales that wanted to do a podcast to get the phones to get going and to tell the story of our brand because I thought it would generate more sales. So I just started dabbling in that. And then that kind of took off and there was, you know, people underneath me that needed career paths. So I guess I kind of had to move out of the way in order for them to have the path, which, you know, I guess is a good thing. Kind of was hurtful at the time, I think, but kind of I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So like everything happens for a reason. But in the moment, I was like, what the hell? I think they're...
Yeah, did I just pigeonhole myself?
Yeah, I think like, I don't know. Like, what did I just do? Yeah. And so, so I moved into a role that was marketing and branding and content creation and like recruiting and getting the word out. And it kind of like, you know, became a pretty cool role. Yeah. And so... But it became a complete career change because I was no longer managing salespeople. I was no longer selling. Instead of selling one customer at a time, I was trying to sell the world to pay attention to us. Yeah. So I guess I was still selling, but I was selling the world.
Do you think it's more pressure for the content creation than sales? Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I need immediate gratification. And in sales, you make X amount of calls. You embrace rejection. You know it's coming. You know that cliche, but 10 yeses, you know, on the 11th one, or 10 no's, you know, on the 11th one, it's a yes, right? So you start to get the science and you start to know, but the wins are fast. Even if it's a longer sales cycle, you know what the wins are, and there's predictability. It's like, I know if I make 200 phone calls, 40 are going to answer. And if 40 answer, 20 tell me to go to hell. 20 give me time. Of the 20 that gave me time, then 10 of those 20 tell me to go to hell. The other 10 remain. And then of that 10, 5 say, not now, call me back in 6 months. The other 5 say, send me a proposal. Of the 5, 2 just say, hell no, way too expensive, or we're going with somebody else. The other 3 are in the mix. Yeah, you find a way, and you just can measure that formula. So so you can measure the wins on each stage. You're just trying to advance,
just keep
them through that stage. Content creation is trying on me. When I say trying, like it's like nerving.
Yeah.
Because I could create the most amazing content piece. I just absolutely think it's amazing, and I really like it, and I show other people, and they really like it.
Yeah.
And it's like throwing a pebble into the abyss.
Yeah.
It's like, did anyone even care that happened?
Yeah.
And then there's other times where I just will be walking and I'll put a camera on myself and I'll say 2 sentences and I'm like, I just needed to get something out there and whatever. Or I'll write about, sobriety. Or I'll write about winning the club championship on a business platform. And that's the thing that
takes off.
Right? Yeah. So it's like there's a science to it, but there's also a bit of luck, and I don't even know if it's luck. I think it's people show up to personal platforms for multitudes of reasons. There's some people that are creators on LinkedIn where people don't care about their life. What they care about is the knowledge that person has, and that's the only thing that they're there for. They want the nuggets.
Yeah.
There's other people that have great nuggets and want to offer them up, but people care a little bit less about that and more about the person. Yeah. I happen to be one of those people where I think people like me or are rooting for me or care more about me than they do what I do. Mm. So that's interesting because I have to tell the world what do I do. I have to tell the people what I do. It's part of my job.
Yeah.
But what I've done through A/B testing is I've realized that people care more about me. So I kind of have to tell more about me. And then, oh, by the way, here's what I do.
It on. Yeah.
So it's like, got to be more entertaining with informing.
Yeah.
And eventually people will go, hey, when I need that, I'm going to him because I like him.
Yeah.
Whereas there's other people who do the same type of message all the time, just in different ways. And if they posted about who they were or what they stand for or their life journey, it just wouldn't stick because they've never really been that vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting because this is a career change.
Yeah.
So I would say the third answer to that is that I would be a content creator.
Yeah.
And I would represent brands. I would promote brands. And I would do it in super interesting ways so that it's not boring to people that are trying to receive business content.
And what do you think, I know, let's put our future cap on 10 years from now, because we went through like the TikTok. I mean, we're still in it, right? But like TikTok, Instagram, this, that, the other. What do you think the future of content creation is going to be? Is it still just going to be video platform on apps? Is it going to be, I don't know, like venue based, like people going to places? Where do you think the future of content creation is going to go? That's going to capture more sales and more.
Well, I think AI is going to become more relevant, but it's going to become more relevant from the standpoint of speed to creation, ease of use. There's a lot of time-consuming ticky-tack types of things that turn people off as it relates to getting involved in creating content and using those platforms. And I think AI solves for some of that.
Yeah, like the editing or making a template,
Yeah. And being able to schedule it out. There's already these things, but I think it'll advance. So it'll become even easier.
Yeah.
I think that, you'll see things smashed together where, the platforms will advance where you'll be able to do more things on the platform instead of having to use an app and do it pre and then add it to the platform. Yeah. I think the platforms will gobble up. Like I could see, an Instagram buying Canva.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And kind of folding it into their thing. So on the Instagram app, as a creator, you can do it all on the app. You could create a digital one pager.
Yeah.
And do video. I see major advancement in that regard where the platforms will catch on that, hey, some of these apps that people are spending $1.99 a month or $4 a month for, $69.99 a year.
Yeah.
Like, what if you could just go to TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn? What if you could go to LinkedIn and create all of the content on it. Mm-hmm. Like you could edit. You can't edit on LinkedIn. You got to do it all pre and then
upload.
But what if I could go on to LinkedIn and had some of the features that TikTok has?
Yeah.
But there are things on TikTok that you can't do. Like you can't do a one-pager graphic. Like you can't do a news. So somebody's going to figure out that for creators that are doing it for their personal and corporate brand, like to be able to have a dashboard of all these tools at one place will be powerful.
Yeah.
What I think on the other hand is going to happen is it's going to become more humanized. Because the more technical it becomes on the backside of creating, the more that's going to annoy consumers of content because we don't want to see AI stuff.
Yeah.
Like I want to see humans doing human things. But if AI can make it faster, cooler, more innovative, that'll be awesome. But I think that you're going to see in 10 years, the director of operations of an organization is an influencer.
Yeah.
Because they're building their personal brand for their own well-being to make them sticky and hireable because it's a fluid resume.
Yeah.
And you're going to see more CEOs and founders doing what Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Alex Hormozi have done, where they spend more of their time behind a camera than they do sitting at a desk doing CEO work.
Yeah.
So you're going to see small to mid-sized business owners coming to the realization that they are the face of the brand and actually owning that and taking that and becoming the spokesperson for their own company.
Yeah. And being able to, relate to the people that are buying your product or the people that you're trying to
telling the story, being the ultimate salesperson. And when I say the ultimate salesperson used to be the person who would get in front of a customer and do a great sales and close the sale. Now the ultimate salesperson has got to be an attention grabber. They have to be somebody who inspires. They have to be able to give the secret sauce. They have to be able to give a look into a day in their life. They have to be a walking documentary. They have to sell the total vision. They have to become the ultimate recruiter.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to go work for a company. They want to go work for the people running that company.
Yep.
They don't want to be on the Yankees. They want to go play for the coach, Boone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to play next to those players.
Yeah.
Like being on the Yankees is awesome because of the tradition and the brand. So you got to build that too. But I don't get to go play with Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, right.
In 2025.
Yeah.
I get to go play with, I don't even, who's there now? Stanton? Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get to go play with them. I should have used the Cubs as an analogy because I know everything about them. But you get what I'm saying. Like, so I see that 10 years from now where people have caught on to the fact that you don't need a marketing department. You need a media company within your company.
Yeah.
Social media creators and influencers will become just as important, if not more important, than salespeople will.
Yeah.
And salespeople that can do social media creation,
double whammy,
will be the most powerful salespeople out there because they will be personal brands. They will be ultimate brand champions. They will be able to tell stories to thousands of people at one time. They will be able to sell people in person. While they're selling somebody in person, somebody else is seeing their content and clicking on it and buying from them while they're in an appointment selling to somebody else.
Yep.
Like they will become their own walking sales organization.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
And if it's already starting, and if you're not doing it, I don't know what the hell's wrong and why you're not, and you need to get over the fear, and I can help you with that. And I'm already seeing it happen for a ton of creators. I personally am doing it. It's working. Mm-hmm. And it would work much better if brands would fully adopt it collectively instead of having one or two people at their company that are doing it and nobody else gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like if the whole company adopted it as a way of operation that we're all creating, we're all documenting, we're all telling the story.
Yeah.
And we're all going to have our own little button where somebody could buy from Eric Wiechert, even though he's director of help desk and is not necessarily sales customer facing, but he is customer facing with current clients. But he has his own little link that I love Eric. I could buy from him, or I want to work for Eric. I can click the link and get an interview with him.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go through, a hiring person from HR who sets up the interview, screen, then screens, whatever. Yeah. Somebody could reach out directly to Eric and go, "Hey, I see your content. I've been working level 1 help desk for 2 years. Nobody is like you. I want to come work for you, and I hope that you can, create career path for me so I can get to level 2, level 3, level 4.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell do they do that if they don't see who you are, what you stand for, and what you're all about? Where they have an opportunity to go, that's the person I want to work for. You become more powerful for GSD Technologies and TTSG if you do that, and you become somebody who goes up the fast track of career path because you now are an advocate for the organization on a whole different level.
Yeah. And I think, unless you have somebody on the inside at the company that's already working there who can kind of tell you what it's about, then you're just relying on your own instinct. Like, hey, the interview seemed like it went nice. The manager seems okay. But then when you get there, it's like that could be a terrible experience, could be a shitty job that you work for, just a bad culture. Or you see a place that's peeling back the curtain on a day-to-day basis, showing the videos. We're out in the road. We're hitting the streets. We're, having a quick chat with Tim in his office. We're doing some goofy moment at the help desk, right? Like that shows you, we're not saying, all right, everybody action, remember your script, right?
No, take a look
legit.
in the 4 walls of our building. This is what it would feel like to work here.
Yeah.
And I know it works because I did it at another brand. And when I left there was 300 people in the pipeline that wanted to come work there.
Yeah.
And they wanted to come work there not because they saw something on Indeed. Right. They wanted to come work there because they saw 4 years of daily content creation of culture and high energy and thought leadership. And it made them go, I want to go work with or for them.
Yeah.
Right? So this is already happening at some companies. It should be happening at far more. And if you're a small to mid-sized business owner and you're not doing this, you're at a total disadvantage, because if corporate USA gets over their virtue signaling and their, we're not human, we're robots, and everyone speaks HR language and nobody has any personality and there's no vulnerability and nobody's really authentic and we don't swear here and all that shit. Once a large corporation figures out that they need to open up the 4 walls and let people in like a Gary Vee has, small to mid-sized businesses are going to be in big trouble. Mm-hmm. Where small to mid-sized businesses have an opportunity right now is big corporations, because they feel like they can't control the social media, they police it hardcore. So they're actually holding their people back from doing it. And then their people go, well, if I'm going to be policed, I'm just not going to do it, period.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't name any names, but in previous lives, you had to really watch what you put out. And again, your personal life should be separate than your corporate life. But even if you were trying to post something about the company in a positive way, HR would call you the next day saying, you need to take that down. We don't do that thing here.
See, that's the mold I want to break, because I don't think your corporate life should be different from your personal life. That means you're living 2 lives.
Sure.
So why would I live 2 lives? I am who I am. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And if I'm not right for your brand as who I am authentically, and I got to lie to the world in order to represent your brand,
straight,
but I'm actually different, then you got a brand problem.
Yeah.
Like, so, or you've got an employee that doesn't match your brand. So like, if me being myself doesn't fit your brand, then the brand should say, you shouldn't work here. And I should catch on and go, I don't want to work here.
Yeah.
And I go find a place that is accepting of the thing.
And I think that's, one thing I really enjoyed about coming on board here at GSD was that feeling of acceptance that when I sat down and spoke with Tim or just spoke with some of the folks that are already working here, it's just like, oh, I don't have to like put on an act like, oh my God, you know, like let's look through my resume. It's more like, what do you want to get done here? How can we do it together? Everybody's able to collaborate. Your ideas mean more than ours right now just because we're not in a spot where we know how to do these things.
Yep.
It was all just like so welcoming.
Yeah, like here's the boundaries. Don't do this.
Yeah.
You're amazing if you do this. Freedom in between.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, to the point, there's only one thing that you absolutely should not touch, and that would be politics.
Yep.
Like and not because you don't have a right to believe what you believe, and not because you don't have a right to support one person or another. This is the beauty of being in a free country.
Yeah.
One of the few left that actually is supposed to be able to speak its mind and say what it's going to say. It's not that is the problem. The problem is that society is so polarized and has stopped listening and communicating to the point where if you say you believe one side or the other, you split your market in half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the reason. It's not because you shouldn't be supportive of your beliefs and stand for what you stand for. It's because from a business standpoint, you're shrinking your market by half because the market is just kind of wackadoodle on politics right now. So I would just recommend you stay away from it. But
but everything else, fair game.
Everything else, like,
why not?
Like, look, I'm doing a podcast right now where I just told you very intimate things where, you know, people could listen to this and be like, why the hell would you do this? Like, what are people going to think about you? Like, how does that make other people feel? It's like, well, my strength is in truth. Truth sets you free. So this is all truth. Yeah. And like, how can you fully connect with somebody unless you feel like they're true? Yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, even just hearing your story that there's other people out there that are going to listen to this and be like, hey, I'm leading up to the point where he's talking about that. That's me right now.
Maybe.
And he gave me some advice that maybe I should try this path versus that path, you know,
maybe
try it. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah. I mean, you know, kind of the idea is like, if you can help one person, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't you?
If me being vulnerable and a little bit uncomfortable helps one person, then shame on me if I'm not willing to go there. And I'm not uncomfortable anymore. The problem was I lived 48 years of my life being uncomfortable. I'm now comfortable.
Yeah.
And the comfort came from truth.
And I see you sitting so relaxed this whole 2 hours plus we've been sitting. Yeah. There's no like, you know, feeling the weight. It's just, it's just you being you, which is great.
And by the way, I got a shit ton of problems. Like I look at bills and I look at bank account and I look at the state of the world and going grocery shopping and not buying anything that's super lavish. And it's like, that was $350. Oh my God. And my kid, I got 3 boys, man. They're going to eat me out of the house.
Exactly.
I got to go back next week and do that again. Oh God. Like, so, you know, everyone's got problems, but this is the first time in a long time in my life where I feel really powerful, and I feel really powerful because I worked on the inside out instead of working on the outside in. You can't do it that way. You got to get the inside right first. So I got the inside right now.
And it also helps when golf season.
Season helps, yeah. That gets rid of a lot of depression. Yeah.
So John, I got 2 final questions for you.
Yep.
If you could have dinner with anybody, past or present, who would you sit down and want to have dinner with? Like, nice 2-hour meal, whether it's in sports, politics, celebrity.
When you say past or present, what do you mean?
Let's just say you want to have dinner with Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, so they could be alive or dead.
They could be alive or dead, yep. So who would you want to just sit down and have a dinner with, whether you're eating or not or whatever? Just a sit-down, nice conversation for 2 hours, maybe even just a podcast, let's say that.
My mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah, I miss them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was unresolved. Unfortunately, my mom had dementia for 10 years. So that's, as challenging as, think of it, could there be any more terrible of a thing for a human to be trapped in their own mind and to be physically well, but gone.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of the fact of how difficult that is for a family. Like, your mom's there, but she doesn't know who you are. Like, that's really hard. And there was a lot of things that were not cleared up with my dad before he passed that I would imagine he probably regrets, and I probably do. There was a lot more love to be talked about. There was a lot more thank yous to be given on my side. I think there was a lot more of him needing to understand where I was coming from. You know, my dad, you know, that generation didn't understand mental health issues. And, you know, my brothers and sisters look back and go, oh, God, yeah, Dad had major anxiety and depression. But he just kept going.
Yeah.
So there's some thank yous that he made so many sacrifices, then he dealt with it and got through, but it also killed him. Yeah. And when I say it killed him, it didn't kill him from the standpoint of like he keeled over. He had a great life. He lived, you know, into his 80s and so on. But he had a heart attack 6 or 7 months before I was born. He had another one at 56 years old. I was a sophomore in high school. That's the one that caused me to quit the baseball team. And then during his quadruple bypass surgery, he had a stroke. So, like, This is a guy who spent the last 30-something years of his life a multimillionaire with every ability to do whatever he wanted, but he was sick. Mm-hmm. He was unable to do that. Rheumatoid arthritis took away his ability to golf, and he lived on a golf course that he built a house on so that he could golf every day. Can you imagine the torture that is? So there's a lot of stuff that, like, I would love a 2 or 3 hour sit down to apologize for the way that I thought and for things that I held them to that they did their best on that I had no right to hold them to. I want to tell them that I understand, because now I have teenage boys, that I understand how difficult it is to raise teenage boys, and especially as they're becoming who they are, and they're not always who you want them to be. They're not always who you believe they're supposed to be, or you think God gave you. They have their own way of thinking, and they become what they're going to become. And you know, there's some of that where I wish I could have that conversation and thank them for the grace that they gave me. I want to thank them for the tough love, because who knows, I could have been some wallflower that just kind of wimped out, but instead they were tough, and that made me tough and resilient. And I might not be here right now if it wasn't for that toughness that they instilled in me. So, and you know, there's also some things I'd love to explain to them. I would love to tell them how I spiraled so bad. And can you imagine the people that you love and admire the most only know you about 40%? The amount of lies that I kept from them, the amount of so like the people that your parents should know you, like your spouse and your parents should like know you the most. And like, you know, my spouse knows everything about me. My parents knew me like 40%. Yeah. And I wish that wasn't the case.
It rings true, because my dad's still alive, and whether or not he'll listen to this, maybe he will, but if the amount of times he knew I skipped class in college, just stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like, I was so studious. I was at the library. I was chasing the maybe a little bit taller girls than 5 to 5'3", but
well, but thanks for saving them for me.
Teach their own. Yeah, no, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. That I can't think of. I mean, there's a list of other people that I would put, but if you're saying if I had to narrow it down, and like everyone, when I think of my mom and dad, everyone else falls off. I want one more hug.
Yep. Yeah.
You know that.
That's
right?
it. Yep.
I want another hug. I want them to watch an episode.
Yeah.
Be like, damn, that was good.
Yeah.
I want to hear that.
Look at what you've created here.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Last final question, which you always end the episodes with, just the words of inspiration, words of advice. Just how do you recommend, and how do you yourself just continue to get shit done?
Perfection is a form of procrastination. And if you are seeking perfection, you will hold yourself back from all that life has to offer. The beauty of life is the scars that it gives you. You know, the Cindy Crawford beauty mark. You know what I'm saying? Like, they made her so unique and different and recognizable internationally. And I look at brands that way. I look at people in that regard. Fall in love with your differences. Don't fit in. Fuck fitting in. Like, stand out. Be brash about standing out. Be brash about your unique qualities. And within that, there's also a level of empathy, compassion, understanding, and patience that you have to have with everyone in your surroundings. And so I just think that if you're going to get shit done, you have to just take the steps and always be moving forward. There are days that you just will not want to do it, but it doesn't mean that you can't take the smallest step possible so that you say that you did a little bit of it. There's other days where you can take giant leaps and do huge things, and then go do those giant things and huge things, but don't have days where you don't take any step. You know, you've got to take even the smallest step, and you got to build it up. There's a level of character and class that we have to have towards each other that I think has broken down in this world. So when I say be brash, be unique, be different, that means without negatively affecting other people. Like, that doesn't mean that you get to shut other people down in order for you to express your unique beliefs and be and do whatever you want to do as long as it positively impacts you and your surroundings. Don't do things because they're brash and different, whatever, that are having a negative impact on the rest of the world, or shutting down communication, or, you know, or creating, infighting or conflict that it can't be resolved because
we've got enough of that.
Yeah, like, but what I am saying is, like, especially for like a business or a brand. So let's just keep it there for a second. Like, there are things at your company that are quirky, goofy things that you do. You need to lean into those and let the world know that that is the case. Yeah. Like, if there's very interesting people at your organization that have very interesting dialogue with another very interesting person at your company, maybe capture some of those moments and like lean into that. Those are characters within the story of your business. Your business is a movie.
Yeah.
Let us watch it, man.
It's The Office everywhere.
Yeah. Let us watch that movie.
Yeah.
Let us know the characters.
Yeah.
Let us know who the class clown is. Let us know who the Nikola Tesla of your company. Like, who's the smartest person in your building? Let us know who that is. I want to know that person.
Yeah.
Who's the mom of the company?
Yeah.
I want to see the mom of the company momming people into things. I want to know that. Like, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to know who's the star athlete at your organization that is the best on your company's softball team. Like, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to know that. That's going to cause me to want to pay a little bit more attention to your company, at least to be aware that it exists, and to stay in the game with you until I'm ready to buy.
Yeah.
And then while I'm doing that, I'm probably digging in and going, okay, When I'm ready to buy a copy machine, that's who I'm going to buy it from. TTSG.
Yeah.
When I'm ready to buy office supplies or whatever. I'm not now, but I'm watching them, and I like that person. I like that person. When I'm ready, I'm going to buy from them. Right? Give us a look into that. So, when I say perfection is a type of procrastination, what I mean by that is there's so many people that know that they should do that next step to become better in sales, but they won't because they're afraid that they're going to screw it up first. Screw it up. That's how you're going to get there. There's people that say that they're going to start creating content and get on camera, but they're not, because they think they think they need to make the perfect post that's going to go viral. If your platform is LinkedIn, you ain't going viral. Sorry. So just get the content out there.
Yeah.
Get people to know you.
But my cousin's on there. My aunt might see me. Who cares?
People are hesitating from starting a company podcast because who would host it? And what would we talk about? Just get the damn thing started and just get moving. Hit record. We're 2 hours and 27 minutes in. If you're still listening to this, I'm shocked. Okay, but I know that I'm going to have content clips from this to be able to distribute out, and it's going to create great content. If anything, what happened out of this is Eric and I just strengthened our relationship because we know each other a little bit better than we did before. And now we've collaborated on a different level, which means that we now are married together on a higher level, which means that we're going to collaborate and be better within the four walls of this business. Even if you don't watch this podcast and you don't care, Eric and I just got better for doing it.
100%.
And was it perfect? Not even close. Yeah. It's not even close to perfect. So just go after it. And as long as it doesn't hurt other people, be bold.
Awesome. Well, the legendary John Morris, congrats on all the episodes thus far, all the guests, a lot of great success. As you can see, this place, when it was first being built, was, I would say, a former shell, right? This is just awesome space.
Warehouse closet.
So congrats on all the success here and all the previous guests. I know we got a lot more lined up. So thanks for letting me just come in and pick your brain and get some history. And I love hearing all the stories that you told. Not all obviously great stories in terms of the content of, what they were, but they're human. And I'm glad that you're able to open up to us and the rest of the audience here because, you're just the greatest guy, and we love you. And we're glad you're here, John. And we're looking forward to the next 50 plus episodes. We got to have 100 episode celebration. We'll go back in the warehouse or have a big round table.
Can we golf?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like every celebration for me should just be on a golf course.
Oh, let's do it every single day. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And once again, John, thank you so much.
Eric, you have to end the podcast the way the podcast ends.
And let me remind you, sir, you got shit done.
Let's go. Woo! Business handle 15% growth? If yes, you have to engage with 2020 Design. They fuse data and creativity to stop the scroll, break through the noise, and grab the attention of your future customers. 2020 Design will create competitive, click-worthy campaigns, design and build custom websites, spark your social media presence, and structure email campaigns that get right to your audience, the decision maker. Let's boost attention and awareness, which allows you to convert more sales. Check them out at 2020design.com. That's the number 20, TWENTY design.com.